Regularly scheduled programs will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the NFL football game live and in color.
Gerard steps up, fires, Mike Sims Walker, knocked down. Oh, he caught it! Oh, unbelievable! Mike Thomas, touchdown Jag!
3 seconds left, 3rd and 10 at the SMU 41-yard line. McMahon all the way back in his own 46, throwing for the end zone. Receivers are there, defenders are there. It is in the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown!
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a Football Show, Week 16 in the NFL. And we continue into the last week of the NFL, getting ready for the playoffs. And we got some bowl games, some interesting bowl results. And we get to preview the college football playoff semifinals. New Year's Eve is on Thursday, Greg, and I can't wait.
It's going to be good. We had a good weekend of NFL, I thought, too. Things are picking up here towards the end, which...
Yeah, once you get some games with implications, it changes the... Even if there's some crappy teams, we don't care about the crappy games right now. It's the games that have meaning, and there were several that were interesting, up and down the line. So, getting those playoff positions intact, and the entire NFC is clinched. There's only one team on the outside right now in the AFC, and there's still a lot of fluidity with the seeding. So, a lot going into Week 17.
Yeah, we've got a matchup for the NFC North showdown coming up Sunday night, Packers-Vikings, and a lot of seeding can still take place. So even though it looks like it's all pretty much wrapped up, there's still a lot of things that can happen yet, which is kind of cool going into the last week of the season when you've got this many playoffs teams that have clinched, and there's still stuff to watch. It's just cool.
I think it's part of the NFL scheduling because all the games this week are divisional matchups, and I think that's really helped out that they've moved like the divisional games into Week 17, so there's still stuff on the line rather than everybody not playing their guys. So.
Oh, and we forgot one other thing, too. We are not going to have an undefeated team this year.
We're not. No, we're not.
Which, when we get to it, I think that's a good thing, but we'll get to that bridge when we get to it.
So let's start with Week 17 in the National Football League. We start on Thursday with another potential loser goes to Los Angeles match. Chargers and the Raiders, the last home game potentially for the Raiders in Oakland. The Chargers it was a tight game, entertaining actually for a Thursday night game. Goes into overtime. Raiders pull out the victory, 23-20. Raiders are 7-8. Just on the cusp of that playoff contention. Couldn't make that extra jump, but overall a great season for the Raiders and the Chargers. They got all their effort in their last potential home game last week, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think the Raiders had a much better season than anybody anticipated. And to me, the more interesting thing coming out of this is which one of these teams are we going to see playing somewhere else next year? Is it going to be both of them, just one of them, neither one of them? We don't know yet. We just know there's a lot of possibilities. Mm-hmm. So it was
also the last home game in the career of Charles Woodson, who announced his retirement this week. 20 years in the NFL, I think. Did he win the Heisman Trophy in Michigan?
I think he did, yes.
As a defensive player?
Yeah, and I think he was also like a punt returner and stuff too, so that's how they kind of got around giving it to a straight-up defensive player. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, yeah.
But what do you think of the overall career of Charles Woodson?
I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know that he's a knockdown, first ballot, no doubt about it, Hall of Famer, but I think he gets the nod when it's all said and done.
Yeah. Anything else for Thursday night? Christmas Eve.
I wish the Chargers had worn better uniforms. Other than that,
yeah, that happens. So we skip over Christmas Day and we go to Saturday, where the NFC East title was on the line, and finally, Greg, a team with an opportunity to take control of the NFC East took control of the NFC East.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins and the Redskins, just a great performance. They knock off the Eagles 38-24 and win the NFC East. With all the turmoil that was going on in the preseason with the Redskins, with the RG3 stuff and the Jay Gruden controversies, and just who was going to be fired, how bad was this team going to be? Out of all this mess that the NFC East became, they're the ones that end up clinching it on the Saturday night in Philadelphia.
And they are the one prediction I got right so far this season, I think.
Hey.
About 5 weeks ago, we were talking about this division. And I said, I just thought Washington wanted it a little bit more. I don't know that they're necessarily more talented than the other two teams, but they just seem to be the team that, weird as it sounds, in a division that's going to end up probably with an 8-8 champion, because I don't know that the Redskins are going to really try that hard this week, is that they're the most consistent team. Which, but I think it's great that Kirk Cousins finally came along a year after we thought he would. But I think this team's going to be a little bit tricky when we get into the playoffs. I don't know that they're going to be a real easy out for anybody. So it's going to be interesting. But did anybody at the beginning of the season pick Washington to win this thing? I don't think anyone did.
If they were nuts. Because you look, like I said, what was going on with RG3 at the time, what everyone's opinion of Jay Gruden was, not to mention, there was all that talk, and always the talk coming in out of the offseason with the name stuff and Daniel Snyder and just this whole mess. And you thought, this is such a toxic environment. There's no way this team can be successful with just the culture that had surrounded it. And despite all that, they, like you said, were the most consistent team in this division all year. And consistent in that they were up and down, but they're going to get to that 8-8 record probably, or maybe even 9-7. Who knows? But they win the division, and good for them. And
I think if you go back to
it's also good for Kirk Cousins they won this game because of the halftime.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, what was that all about?
I think it's one of those things where your mind's going too quickly, and he's like, "I gotta spike the ball," and then you kneel. It's like, "Oh, damn it!"
And he wasn't. I mean, we talk about having a brain lock. He wasn't even the worst one of the weekend. With that. But with this team, I think that when we went back to the preview we did way back like 18 weeks ago, I don't know that either one of us had Washington winning more than 4 games this year. No. And we thought that would be if they could do like a 6-10 season, that would be really great for them. And look at them now. So I'm kind of excited. They're kind of fun to watch. Of course, I'm never going to be crazy about the name, but there are bigger things to worry about. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch in the playoffs. Yeah, I would be very careful playing these guys, whoever ends up getting them. Yeah, they're going to be the 4th seed no matter what happens this upcoming Sunday. They'll be playing either the NFC North loser or the Seahawks, depending on how that goes, because seeding's still fluid in the NFC. Move on to Sunday, where just some great games on Sunday, really, from top to bottom. We'll start with one of the more interesting decisions of the weekend. The Jets knock off the Patriots in overtime, 26-20. The Jets now move back into the wild card picture. They are currently the 6th wild card seed, and kind of an inexplicable decision by the Patriots that led to the Jets winning this game. I thought the Jets played well throughout the game. I thought they were the better team throughout the game, and the Patriots were able to tie it there late. And then the coin toss comes, and I think Slater is the guy that called the toss, and he said, we want to kick off. And then he had a confused look on his face, so we all thought, and so the announcer's like, did he just mess up? Did he want to say that they wanted the ball? Turns out, at least as far as Bill Belichick is going to tell you after the game, that's what the Patriots wanted to do. They wanted to kick it off. I don't buy that for 1 second. I think that was Bill Belichick taking the bullet for one of his guys. Maybe, but because if you think Slater backed up in his post game comments as well. But you also heard Slater say afterwards too, like, wait a minute, don't we get to choose? When he was saying that, they were talking about the direction. Oh, okay. I thought he meant like wait a minute, did I just pick this because I anyway. Right. That's what we all thought. I think what Bill Belichick and Slater both combined to say was they wanted to kick off, and then when they asked the Jets which way they wanted to receive, they were like, wait, don't we get to pick which way we defend? Okay. And so he was confused about that, but that's either way. I mean, with the way overtime works, why would you ever give anyone else the ball first? The only thing I can think of is that they thought that they could shut down the Jets because obviously the 3 things are going to happen. They're going to score a touchdown and win the game, which is what happened. They kick a field goal, which you have to match, or you hold them, and then all you need is a field goal to win the game, right? Right. So maybe in Belichick's mind, he's like, all we've got to do is get these guys off the field in a 3-and-out or whatever. Don't let them get into field goal range, and we can come down and win the game. And when you've got Tom Brady at quarterback, I think that's a perfectly valid strategy. I would have never done it myself, but if he was thinking along those lines, I sort of get it. But this is a team that had played you flat-footed all day long. I don't know that I take a chance like that. So I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I kind of get the strategy from one aspect and one aspect only, but other than that, it's like, what the hell were you doing?
Yeah.
And it cost them the game. You knew that was what was going to happen.
The other conspiracy theory is that the Patriots are trying to screw over the Steelers by letting the Jets win. I don't know.
Well, okay, if that's
the
case, though, then why not even bother to tie the game at the end? You know what I'm saying? If they really wanted the Steelers, you know what I mean?
No, I know. It's then teams aren't thinking of that deep.
No.
At that point. You're thinking you want to win the football game, and that's pretty much where you go. From the Jets' perspective, though, 10 wins.
What a great season for them.
Right, we talk about the amazing season the Redskins have. The Jets have 10 wins, and they may end up with a 10-win season and still miss the playoffs, depending on what happens this week. And, again, with the quarterback turmoil they had, to have a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick step in and play the way he has, 296 with 3 TDs on Sunday against the Patriots, and Brandon Marshall having the season he's having, 115 yards, 2 TDs on Sunday as well.
Good defense, too.
The defense, Todd Bowles coming in from Arizona as the defensive coordinator has really made that the backbone of this team. But the offense is clicking very well right now for the Jets. And, I kind of like what I'm seeing out of this Jets team.
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record because we've been saying it all year. But with Ryan Fitzpatrick, all he had to do was just not kill them. And he is not – he's killed them a couple times throughout the season, but he's played more than well enough to get down to the 10 wins that they are. So they did exactly what we thought they would have to do to be this good, and here they are. And I like what I'm seeing out of this team, too. I was listening to the two guys subbing for Dan Patrick today, and they were talking about it's basically New England and Denver and everybody else in the AFC. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I buy that. I mean, this Jets team can be tough. We know the Steelers can be tough. Kansas City has reeled off, 10 in a row now? Or 9 in a row?
9 in a row.
9 in a row now. And, you don't know what Houston's capable of at this point. So I'm not ready to just crown Denver or New England at this point. I think this Jets team's very good. They've already proven they can beat New England. Now, that was in MetLife, so, it's a different story when you got to play them on the road. But still, I think we've got a very strong playoff field in the AFC, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think if these teams played again, it would be in Foxborough again. It would be different.
Right.
I would still give the edge to the Pats. I still think that they're the class of the conference. But, yeah, if this Jets defense is up to snuff and Fitzpatrick can not make mistakes and connect with Brandon Marshall like they have, then they're definitely a dangerous team. And, we kind of, at the beginning of the season and throughout, we kind of looked at the massive field for the wild card teams in the AFC, and we said, oh, God, whoever's going to get that wild card is going to be god-awful. But, you look now with how well the Chiefs are playing, how well the Jets are playing, and everybody was scared of the Steelers until this week. It's shaping up to be a much more competitive AFC field than I think we had anticipated at any point during the season.
Yeah, I agree. I still think New England's a team to beat. I think Denver's right there, but I think it's a lot closer than even 3 weeks ago we would have thought it was going to be at this point going into the playoffs. So yeah. I'm happy about that because that means that we might get a shot at knocking the Patriots out of this thing somewhere along the way, and I'd be fine with that. But it's going to be a good playoff. And, you've got, was it Brandon Weeden with Houston?
Yes.
I don't get it. Again, though, Houston, Texas, where Cleveland Browns quarterbacks go to die, I guess, or rejuvenate their careers, depending. But yeah, this Jets team's good. They're going to be fun. And it's a much better season than I saw them having.
Speaking of Brandon Weeden, those Texans, they get one step closer to clinching the division with a 34-6 win over the Titans. Brandon Weeden, the starting quarterback for the Texans in this game. B.J. Daniels came in late for mop-up duty as well. For the Texans. Yeah, exactly. So they're 8-7, and they don't even have to win this week. And the reason they haven't clinched the division is because the Colts, they get an 18-12 win over the Dolphins. So the Colts are 7-8. The Colts and Texans split this year. So the Colts, despite Matt Hasselbeck being pretty much dead, like almost dead, like he's living on his last legs. Charlie Whitehurst goes on IR on Monday. So the only healthy quarterback the Colts have on the roster right now is Stephen Morris, who they signed off the Eagles practice squad last week.
Did Stephen Morris win a contest or something? Is that how he got this job?
Well, he was healthy. They worked out Josh Freeman on Monday.
Wow.
Still haven't signed him. There's rumors that maybe they put in Andrew Luck, even though he hasn't been cleared to practice yet. And there's no way you risk him.
You can't. No, we talked about this 3 weeks ago.
No.
You just got to forget it and let him heal up and worry about next year.
But the Colts, prior to Monday night's game, they had a 0.03% chance of making the playoffs still. They have to win on Sunday against the Titans. First and foremost, the Colts have to beat the Titans. Secondly, they got the first thing that they needed last night with the Broncos beating the Bengals. Then on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, Week 17, these are what needs to happen for the Colts to make the playoffs. Texans need to lose to Jacksonville. Steelers have to beat the Browns. Broncos have to beat the Chargers. Falcons have to beat the Saints. Bills have to beat the Jets. Dolphins have to beat the Patriots. Ravens have to beat the Bengals. And the Raiders have to beat the Chiefs.
Is that it?
That's it.
Have you ever seen the movie Apollo 13?
Yes.
That scene where they go, we've got like 9,000 things that have to go right, and we're on number 7. That's where the Colts are right now.
Yeah. It's like I said, basically Houston is the division winner as far as right now. And I mean, you look at these things, sure, the Colts can beat the Titans, Steelers can beat the Browns, Broncos can beat the Chargers, Falcons can't beat the Saints, Bills could beat the Jets, but I don't want that to happen. I'd like the Jets to make the playoffs.
Right, me too. I think the Jets want to make the playoffs too.
The Jags could beat the Texans, but the Dolphins aren't going to beat the Patriots.
No.
The Ravens aren't going to beat the Bengals, and the Raiders aren't going to beat the Chiefs. So congratulations to your AFC South least loser, the Houston Texans.
But you know what? We did manage somehow, some way. We're not going to have a sub-500 division champion this year.
No, we're not, yeah.
And I would have, 5 weeks ago, I was absolutely convinced that we were going to have 2. So I guess that's good, I guess.
Yeah. But, God, how big of an underdog are the Texans going to be in the first round against the Chiefs, which they're most likely going to play at this point?
I don't think it's going to be as big as you think.
Really?
I don't think the odds makers are sold on the Chiefs yet. I don't think a lot of people are sold on the Chiefs. Hell, I'm not sold on the Chiefs entirely. If I had to call it right now, to be in Houston, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Chiefs by 3.5. I don't think it's going to be much more than that because you got Brandon Weeden somehow figuring out how to play football over the past 2 weeks. You've got a pretty good Texas defense, and the Chiefs are on the road. So I don't know. I don't.
The only thing that I can
underdog.
say for sure with whatever game the Houston Texans are going to be in the playoffs, this will be the early Saturday game of Wild Card Weekend, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is that awful slot that the Texans. I think every time they made the playoffs, they were in that slot. Is that early game because nobody really gives a damn about the Houston Texans.
Right. I'm not even sure Houston Texans fans care that much about them.
J.J. Watt's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, Brandon Weeden's the starting quarterback for the Texans.
Well, while we're talking about the
Brandon
Texans,
Weeden's going to the playoffs, Greg.
While we're talking about the Texans for a second, though, okay, they were talking about this on the Dan Patrick thing today, and I thought this was an interesting thing I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Okay. Brock Osweiler is probably going to be the guy the rest of the way for the Broncos this season.
Uh-huh.
There is talk that Peyton Manning wants to come back for one more year. Mm-hmm. So the Broncos probably aren't going to bring him back because what would be the point? So they said, who are some teams out there that you think would be a good fit for Peyton that are like maybe good enough to where he could step in and make a difference? And a couple teams came up that I thought were interesting, and I thought, and they brought up Houston. I thought, if he has to play one more year, which I hope he doesn't, but if he does, I think that's the best spot for him.
I think that would be rough, considering he'd be back in the Colts division. Man, I don't know. Peyton needs to be done.
I think so too, but I'm just saying that if he had to come back,
if he really wants to play again,
yeah.
I think if he really wants to play again, it's the Broncos or nobody. He's not going to go to another new team and have another team learn the offense around him. Yeah, the Texans have a lot of nice weapons. He'd love to throw to DeAndre Hopkins all day and have J.J. Watt protecting him on the other side. But I don't think so.
I don't either. I think
it's Broncos or nobody for him next year.
I hope it's that too. But I'm just saying, if he were to do that, there were a few teams they threw out, and it was like Houston was one, Buffalo was in there. I can't see him going to play Buffalo.
No.
But I thought, if he had to do this, and God willing he won't, because I just think he shouldn't have even played this year. I think he should have walked away after last year.
Of course.
But if he has to do it, Houston's probably the best fit. And I hope he doesn't do that. But if he's going to do it, that's probably where he should go. But let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Let's move on down back into the AFC wildcard picture. The Chiefs survived the Cleveland Browns at home. The Browns were driving in the final minute, and they were out of timeouts. They made a play for a first down. They start running up to the ball, and they just can't get the ball off in time. Johnny Manziel slams his helmet into the ground.
It was a bad play.
And the Chiefs win 17-13, clinch a playoff spot, and they're the top wild card right now in the AFC, 10-5, tied with the Jets, but I believe that they have the tiebreaker over them right now. The
Chiefs are in, right? They're definitely in.
Yes, Chiefs are in.
Chiefs. They had a shot at still winning the division, but the Broncos, I think, kind of screwed that last night.
Yeah. Technically, the
they
Chiefs
still can.
Division. Yeah,
but the Broncos winning last night hurt their chances a little bit with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about this game.
Well, actually, if they win and Denver loses to San Diego, that's all that needs to happen.
Oh, really?
They just need to tie the Broncos. Yeah.
Okay, but talking about this game, there was a lot of everybody seems to think that the Browns are really high on Johnny Manziel, no pun intended.
Right.
I've watched him play a few games now. I don't know. Am I not seeing something that everybody else is? Because I saw him make a lot of just dumb throws yesterday, and I don't get it. And because there was talk like, are they going to trade him in the offseason? I know that Jerry Jones is interested in him, but we've seen enough of him now. Do you think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback? I don't think he's going to be.
I think at the best he can be like a middling NFL quarterback,
or a good backup option somewhere, maybe.
Right, as long as he keeps his head out of trouble and just plays regular. He's all right, but he's not anybody to hitch your wagon to.
No,
he's a backup. He's a career backup at best, and I don't. If I were a team, I don't think I'd even want him as my backup. Really,
yeah.
He can have a nice career as a backup quarterback, but he's not going to be any team's savior. He's not going to have some incredible run where he leads a team to the playoffs. He's just at his best, he'll be an okay NFL quarterback.
That's what I mean. I think that at this point in the game, we're not going to see the Johnny Manziel we saw at Texas A&M in the NFL. That's just not going to happen.
No.
But and then this Chiefs team, I don't know what to make of these guys. They keep winning, but it's like for a while there, they were just, okay, we're going out, we're winning games, we're getting the job done pretty easily. As this streak has continued, it's getting tougher every week, it looks like. And this was one where you're going, man, this game should have never been close because you've got a Cleveland Browns team playing out the string, and the Chiefs still gunning for a division title. I don't know, but they won.
It's Andy Reid football is what it is.
And
right.
Everybody's been saying, too, he's going to screw up one of these games. And I thought this might be the one that he did it, but he's got one more shot. But I mean, it's pretty amazing. They started out 1-5 and they turned it around to be 10-5 now. That's a pretty nice turnaround for the Chiefs. So that's good.
It's really kind of impressive, at least that bit of it. But Chiefs, they're in the playoffs. They can still win the division potentially. But I don't think San Diego will go into Denver and beat the Broncos.
No.
I mean, the Broncos can either lose the division or they could. They're still fighting for a bye.
Yeah.
So if they lose and Cincinnati wins, then Cincinnati would move into the bye, and the Broncos would fall all the way down to the fifth wild card if that were to happen. But I like the Chiefs right now. But
I do too. I look at them though and I think I don't know that they can like in the NFC. I look at Washington and I say they could cause some trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Chiefs aren't going to be one and done, but maybe I hope not. But I just don't see them being able to.
No.
Maybe I think they could beat maybe a Cincinnati, but they'd have a hell of a because they're going to be on the road every week, pretty much, barring unless it comes down to like a wild card AFC championship.
Yeah, we've seen peak Chiefs over the last few years. It's just they can be this good. They can win 10 games. They could win 11 games a year, but they're not a threat for a Super Bowl title. They're a solid team.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not gonna. They can win a playoff game. I don't think they could win two.
No,
and I certainly don't think that they could win the conference or even a Super Bowl at that matter.
Right.
So, moving on down, we'll go through a couple of these insignificant games in the morning. Lions knock off the 49ers. 49ers fall to 4-11, fighting for the bottom of the.
Where are the Lions at now? What's their record?
6-9.
Oh, I was going to say, how badly do they want back that Packers game? But I guess it really doesn't much matter at this point.
No, 6-9. They're too far. Bills knock off the Cowboys 16-6.
Did you watch any of this?
No.
It was excruciating. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, Bills are 7-8. Again, another team that they just lost some dumb games early in the year.
Yep.
Right there, but 7-8. Bears knock off the Bucks 26-21. Bears improved to 6-9.
Hey.
Yeah, not bad. And back to the important games. The Panthers looking to keep their march up to an undefeated season. 2 weeks ago, they beat the Falcons 38-0 in Carolina. This week they go into Atlanta, and despite a great effort from the Panthers late to try and to force some stuff, the Falcons played their best game that they could have possibly played, and knock off the Panthers 20-13, ending the undefeated run. And the Falcons had some playoff hopes until the Sunday night game, but the Falcons improved to 8-7 after a terrible middle stretch of the season. And
yeah, because the way they played on against the Panthers, that was a team we saw in the first 5-6 weeks of the season. They were playing pretty good football. I think with Carolina, I think this is the best thing that could have happened to them. I mean, I know you want history, you want to do all that, but if your ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl, I'm glad that they don't have the undefeated thing hanging over their heads anymore. I think it's a good thing that they got a loss, and this is just going to make them able to focus completely and totally on just winning the Super Bowl. They don't have to worry about history. They don't have to worry about undefeated anymore, and I think it's a good thing.
You concerned at all with the way the Panthers have played the last 2 weeks?
Nope.
Giving up those 28 unanswered to the Giants, losing this tight one to the Falcons.
No. I think that a lot of that might have just – I think with the Giants, they just took their foot off the gas, and that was a mistake. You can do that in college maybe. You can't do that in the NFL, especially not against a team like the Giants who, while they are not good, they're certainly capable of putting points on the board. Mm-hmm. With this game, it was just one of those games. We see these every year. We probably saw a game back in week 3 that was the same exact type of thing. We went, how in the hell did this happen? It's just one of those weeks. And no, I'm not worried about them at all. I still think they're the best team in the NFL, and they're the team to beat. So I'm not sweating it at all, and I'm glad they lost the game. I know that Panthers fans wanted the undefeated season, but I think this is a good thing in the long run.
Right. I think the other thing that's actually good for the Panthers is, since they lost, they still have something to play for this week. They still haven't clinched number 1 overall in the NFC. So they're going to be able. They're not going to rest their starters this week or anything like that. They still have something to play for because they're going to be playing at the same time as the Cardinals, and we'll talk about that Cardinals game here in a few minutes. And
that's a good football team.
That's a good football team too. But speaking of a team that we thought was pretty good and where people were afraid of, the Steelers go into Baltimore and lose to the Ravens. 20-17, the Ravens sweep the season series with the Steelers. 2 of their 5 wins on the season come against the Steelers. 20-17, Ryan Mallett knocks off the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, Ryan Mallett, people have always said that he's got talent. It's just that his head is not quite right. That sounds worse than I'm making it. He's not. The mental makeup isn't quite there. Maybe the maturity's not there. He's always had the talent. But I'm not at all surprised by this result. I've seen Baltimore and Pittsburgh do this to each other so many times over the years, it's not even funny. So, but the Steelers, this is going to hurt them because now, had they won, they were in, right? Basically, or not?
They weren't.
They would be in a lot better shape than they're in right now.
They would still be tied with the Chiefs and the
Jets, yeah.
So technically, this loss clinched the playoff spot for the Chiefs. So they knew that they were going to be in after that. If they had won, it'd still be a 3-way tie, and they could still possibly fall out next week. And they could still make it in. The Jets have to lose to the Bills, and the Steelers have to beat the Browns, and they'll be in based on tiebreakers.
Another thing, too, with the Steelers team, hadn't they run off a streak of like 6 games in a row with 30 points or more? That kind of stuff just comes to an end eventually. I was just, Baltimore is a big rivalry. I mean, that's probably the most intense rivalry in the AFC North, easily. More so than Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Cincinnati, Cleveland. I mean, these two teams don't like each other. So I'm not surprised at all if the Ravens woke up and said, we're going to play these guys today. And they didn't wear those gold pants, which I'm sure didn't hurt a thing.
Yeah. Actually, the uniform combo that the Ravens wore, I actually really like that.
I do too. I thought it looked really good. Yeah.
Black helmet, black jersey, white pants. I think that's a really good look for them, and they should use it a little bit more.
It's on the best list this week.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, this is not surprising. It's just a tough one for the Steelers because you can't let a game like this get away.
No, because now they're behind. Now their playoff spot is not in their hands. Had they just won out, if they won, they'd be in control still, and they just need to win this week or have the Jets lose no matter what. So now they have to win, and they have to hope that the Bills and Rex Ryan stack up against his former team.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen because I was reading an article today where normally a Rex Ryan coach team, win, lose, or draw, they all support Rex Ryan. And I'm hearing there's a lot of reports out of Buffalo that their players aren't real happy with him right now. So it's kind of his
shtick is kind of worn thin.
Yeah, it's not the united front you normally get out of a Rex Ryan coach team. And I think that plays well for the Jets, so I just think the Steelers put themselves in a tough spot here, and they should have won this game. And I understand it's a rivalry and all that, but you got to beat the Baltimore Ravens, who are what was it their fifth win, sixth?
Right. Well, yeah. And you think about the rivalry, all the main players for the Ravens aren't there anymore. Yeah. As far as the guys that know the rival, Ryan Mallett doesn't give a damn. They don't have Terrell Suggs, they don't have Joe Flacco. Even Steve Smith was injured, so it's like. Who on that Ravens team was like, oh, we got to beat the Steelers because we hate them?
I don't know. Somebody must have because they did it.
Maybe that's just playing like a professional football team for once.
That's something too, I think. But yeah. I didn't see much of it. But from what I understand, Mallett had a really good game.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
not half bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Scrolling on down, the Saints knock off the Jags 38-17.
Meaningless.
Or 27. Excuse me. Meaningless. Not so meaningless. The Los Angeles Rams, Greg.
Yeah.
What a win. In Seattle, they sweep the season series with the Seahawks, 23-17. The Rams are 5-1 in the division.
Yeah.
4-1 in the division. They have a chance to go 5-1 on Sunday. I forget who they're playing this week, but
and 0 for everything else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the Rams, they make another impressive showing here late against another really good football team.
Yeah, this is the one. This is of the upsets we had over the weekend. Yeah. I think this one surprised me the most.
Right, and it's a great win for the Rams, and that's nice to see. But a big loss for the Seahawks. They're out of. They can't win the division anymore, and now they're in the 6th wild card spot. And depending on what happens in the Green Bay Minnesota game this week, and if Seattle loses to Arizona, who's still playing for the number 1 seed overall. The Seahawks may have to go to Lambeau or go to Minnesota out in the cold.
Yeah, and it was not what anybody would even remotely define as warm in Minnesota Sunday night.
No, and I think that's the one thing that I'm really going to miss when the Vikings go into that new stadium.
Yeah.
Those outdoor games in Minnesota, especially late in the year like this, those are great.
Yes, they are.
They're going to –
it's a shame.
Yeah, it's a real shame. But, I mean – this was a Seahawks team that had been playing as well as anyone thought.
Oh, they were the scariest team in the NFC, I thought, outside of the Kansas probably.
Over the last month, Russell Wilson was a MVP candidate. 19 touchdowns, no interceptions in the last 5 games, something like that. And now they go into a Rams team that Rams defense is good when it's on.
Yeah.
It's again the Rams 7-8 right now. They may finish 8-8 when it's all said and done. But
I think
they'll finish just right outside the playoffs, and that's too bad.
I think this Rams team is a good quarterback short of being a very good football. A good quarterback and a new head coach short of being a really good football team.
Yep.
They've got good running game. That defense is good. I just think they're just a couple little elements short, but they've shown all season that they can play when they want to. I mean, they've beaten Seattle twice. I think they knocked out somebody else. Didn't they beat the Cardinals once, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Yeah, they beat the Cardinals.
Yeah,
yep.
So, they're not bad, and I'm glad they beat Seattle. I mean, I couldn't be happier about it, but it's just a shame. It's another one of those teams like Buffalo where you look back and you go at some of the stupid games they lost, and you think, man, if you'd won those, you'd be right in the thick of it. So,
yeah. And you mentioned the coach. Look, the Rams play the 49ers this week, so most likely they'll finish 8-8, which is basically the career of Jeff Fisher.
Yep,
8-8 every single damn year.
Yep.
I think in his coaching career he's only had 6 winning seasons. but also had like 4 or 5 losing seasons.
He's ridden that. He was the coach of the Titans when they went to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, then they lost
to the Rams by a foot and a half. Yeah, and I think he's ridden that. I think that people perceive him to be a lot more successful than he really is. Because you're right, he's an 8-8 coach, and if that's what you want, fine, he's your guy. But and then again, is it just that? Well, no, because the Rams have been terrible too. I was going to say it's just that they're caught in the dreaded middle, but no, it's just he's just that kind of coach.
But the Rams have the good defense, and Todd Gurley has come on strong.
Oh, he's something, man.
And so I think if they had a quarterback, this would be different. They wouldn't just be 8-8.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's just funny that that's the way Jeff Fisher works.
Yeah.
He's 8-8. That's what he is every single year. So the Rams could go to 8-8, could go to 5-1 in the division, and still finish third place in the division somehow. That's always insane. But big loss for the Seahawks opens up some different playoff seedings in the NFC, including the opportunity now for the Cardinals to clinch the number 1 seed overall after a 38-8 beatdown of your Packers in Arizona, Greg. That Cardinals defense on Sunday just looked hungry.
It was ferocious.
I think they had more sacks than the Packers had points in the game. Did they have 8 or 9 sacks total?
I don't know. I quit watching when it got to be like 30 to something. I switched over to the Seattle. Was it Seattle? St. Louis was that at the same time? Yeah. I watched that instead. I
think with this game though, I really am of the belief now that the Cardinals may just be the best team in football right now.
Well, you know what? I just said a minute ago that the Panthers probably are, but when I look at it, and I think like a lot of other people, you get caught up in the Panthers being undefeated and that whole thing and how good they've been, and you kind of forget the Cardinals. This team is really, really good. And Carson Palmer is playing great football. They've got running backs that
David Johnson's been a revelation for them.
They've got good receiving. The defense is great, and they're not just beating teams. I mean, they're putting the hammer down on them like this. So, I don't know. It'd be a toss up, but I'll tell you what. You put them on a neutral site. I think I'm taking the Cardinals over the Panthers. I really do. But
when the Cardinals get going and they get a lead and that defense has something to work with, they just eat you up. But on the other side, the Packers, the reason that the Cardinals defense was also so successful, the Packers could not get anything going on the ground, and so they left Aaron Rodgers back there to just get piñataed all day.
Right. The Packers are this year's bad, good team. Their record they're not anywhere near as good as their record. And I'd have to go back and look at their schedule, but I'm trying to think if they beat Seattle, right? But that was back when Seattle was in that stretch where they weren't very good. But who else? And they beat Minnesota on the road, which is like guess what you would call it.
They beat the Chiefs early in the season, week 3.
Yeah, but that was a close game, wasn't it?
That was 38-28.
Okay.
They beat the Vikings
on the road.
Played close with the Lions on the road, but won. Yeah, they don't really have any signature wins outside of that Seahawks game, but that was week 2.
Got beat by the Lions at home.
Mm-hmm. Lost to the Panthers. Lost to the Broncos by 19. Lost to the Panthers big. Mm-hmm. Lost to the Bears at home.
Yep.
And in this Cardinals game, I think you're right. It's just bad, good team. They won the games that they should have won, but the tight games or the good games aren't the ones that they're winning.
No, and I mean they've gotten just their hats handed to them by Arizona, by Carolina, by Denver. Mm-hmm. Any good team they beat the Patriots too this year, didn't they? Or was that last year?
That was last year.
Okay. But the point being is that, you look at them and you go, well, they're the Packers. They've got 10 wins and all that. But you know what? They're not very good at all. They're just they're the bad, good team. And that's as simple as that. I mean, it used to be, even when they weren't hitting on all cylinders, they were always good at Lambeau. But now you've got a loss to the Bears and the Lions in Lambeau. Come on. This is just a team that, you talk about one and done. I don't think the home field advantage is going to mean that much, especially if they end up with Seattle. They're in trouble.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what they do next week because they still have the Vikings.
They still have to beat Minnesota, which I don't think they can do at this point.
And the Vikings, they put a beat down on the Giants. Not that the Giants have anything to play for at that point, but they still kicked the crap out of them, 49-17.
Yeah.
The Vikings looked really good last night at home, and now they go on the road to Lambeau to face the Packers in an NFC North title game. loser could fall all the way down to the 6th seed, depending on what Seattle does on the weekend.
Right, and Seattle's got Arizona, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't think Arizona's going to take their foot off the gas in this game. So even though the game doesn't really have, other than the fact that it can get the Cardinals the number 1 seed possibly, there's not a whole lot of meaning to it. Like it was a few weeks back, it looked like it might be shaking up to be a game for the division title. That's not the case anymore. But the Cardinals are going to come out and play this game. I don't see them resting anybody. I see them going out and trying to win this game. And that would make them, 14-2 on the season?
14-2, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think of the Packers Vikings? What do you see out of the NFC North title game?
I think the Vikings. Unless the Packers can figure out a way to get their receivers open, I don't know what they're going to do. Because I look at that game where they played the Vikings a few weeks back and went into Minnesota and just had their way with them. I'm thinking, how in the world did that happen? Well, I know how it happened. The running game was what did it. But I like Minnesota in this one. I have no faith in the Packers right now because the receivers can't get open. And if Starks and Lacey can't get the running game going, there's nothing left to do. Because you can't – Aaron Rodgers can't save it anymore because his guys can't get open. So if the running game's not working, they're very, very beatable. And I like the Vikings. And, my irrational confidence Vikings, look at them go.
Yeah, they might just knock off your actual team.
Right, yeah. So.
But yeah, what a great season for the Vikings too. 10-5. That's
yeah, really good. Better than I thought. I figured they were like 9-7, maybe 10-6. Wild card. They're playing for the division title, so good for them.
We go on to Monday night, the last Monday night game of the year. A headline battle between A.J. McCarron and Brock Osweiler. This was kind of a crazy game. It really tight throughout. The Broncos have a chance to win it on the last play of the game, and Jesus, how bad was that shank on that field goal?
If I had kicked that field goal, or if he had kicked it, you would have never known the difference. I could have kicked it and done just as poorly as he did. I don't think I've ever seen an NFL kicker miss one that badly. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was just he didn't chunk it. He didn't hit his foot on the ground. He didn't miss a step. It wasn't windy. He just shanked it. He shanked it
bad too. I mean, wow.
But the Broncos go into overtime and they're able to hold on, and the kicker gets redemption with a field goal in overtime. 20-17 win for Osweiler and the Broncos.
Big win for the Broncos, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps them ahead in the division for now. It keeps them in play for the bye. And in theory, should the Patriots lose, the Broncos could go ahead and take the number 1 overall seed. But a big nice win for the Broncos, and Bengals they've already clinched the division. They're just fighting for the bye potentially if the Broncos should fall off this week.
They need to get that bye for no other reason than that at least it won't be another their 8th consecutive wild card loss. At least they'll lose in the actual first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, right. I mean, would the Bengals rather see Steelers, Jets, or Chiefs?
Wow. I think if I'm the Bengals, I probably want to play. I'm probably the Chiefs, wouldn't you think?
Probably, yeah. Because God knows they don't want to play the Bengals or the Steelers.
No.
And it depends on what's happening with Andy Dalton. I haven't heard any updates on him.
I've heard he might be back, but like if they play in the wild card, he won't be back. But if they get the bye, there's a chance he might be back for that game. But I guess looking at the 3 possibilities for them, you don't want the Steelers under any circumstances.
Oh.
So it comes down between the Jets and the Chiefs, and really they're kind of very similar teams.
Yeah.
And I think to me, it's just I think the Jets might have a little bit more on defense and maybe a little bit more of a downfield passing game with Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Alex Smith's not known to throw a lot of really good long balls. But I don't really like their chances against anybody at this point. I hate to say it, but I think they're right back to where they were last year. They're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to go very far.
Yeah. Let's look at the playoff seedings right now and what's in play going into Week 17. We'll start at the top in the AFC. The Patriots have clinched a bye, but they haven't clinched home field throughout the playoffs. They can clinch that with a win or a Denver loss. Denver can get into the number 1 seed with a Patriots loss and a win. But again, they haven't clinched the division yet either. the Chiefs could jump up with a Denver loss and a Kansas City win, or the Broncos could fall down to the 3rd seed if the Chiefs lose and the Bengals win. But none of those teams are going to fall down to the 4th seed. The Bengals won the division. They're going to be either the 2nd or 3rd seed at the end of the day. Houston, all they need is a win or a Colts loss, or any one of those 9 teams that the Colts need to win to lose. And they'll be in as the 4th seed in the AFC. Kansas City, like I said, right now they're the 5th seed. They can jump up to the 2 or 3 if they knock off the Raiders and the Broncos lose to the Chargers. Jets are currently in the 6th seed. Win and they're in. That's all they need. Win and they're in, or Pittsburgh loses to the Browns. Pittsburgh needs a Jets loss and a win over the Browns to get in. In the NFC, Carolina's the number 1 seed, win, and they have the number 1 overall seed for sure. A loss by the Panthers and a win by the Cardinals puts the Cardinals as the number 1 overall seed. Either way, both teams have clinched the first round bye, so they're going to be 1 or 2. Winner of the NFC North will be the 3rd seed. Washington has won the division. They're going to be the 4th seed. Loser of the NFC North could be 5 or 6, depending on what happens with Seattle against Arizona. But the NFC is all clinched. All 6 spots are who they're going to be.
Black Monday will be over before we get a chance to record, so we should, I was thinking we should take a look at. I think that your guy with the Colts, I think he's gone. I think that's it.
You think Gano's gone?
Yep, he's gone. I think Mike Pettine's probably going to get fired from the Browns, even though I don't know how much of this is his fault.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do when you've just got a terrible team? How do you blame that on the coach?
The Titans coach probably fired.
Who was that? Is that Wisenhunt?
Is it Wisenhunt still?
Or no, he got fired, right? Yeah, so the interim
They have
guy.
an interim?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then they're going to need a new coach.
They'll find a new coach.
Jason Garrett, I'm just going to throw the bottom of the standings. Jason Garrett's going to be saved because there's so many extenuating circumstances with the Cowboys. And
yeah, you can't really.
Jerry loves them.
But you know what, though? Jerry Jones, one of the rare times, he actually has a pretty good point, though. I mean, I get it that you lost Tony Romo, but, some of those games, they still should have won. Does Chip Kelly survive this, do you think?
Probably.
You think so?
Yeah. I think they made enough of a comeback late, and there's so many other things going on with that team that I think he survives.
Okay,
because who else are you going to get?
I don't know, but I know that.
And at this point, looking at the college landscape, if he was going to go back to college, what college team would he go for right now? All the big ones are pretty much filled.
Yeah.
Is Tom Sula out after 1 year in San Francisco?
I think so.
I mean, you got to clean house there. There's so many things bad.
Yeah.
I'd get rid of him. I'd get rid of Kaepernick. I'd just try to clean the organization a bit. Mike McCoy in San Diego? This has been a pretty bad year for a Chargers team with some talent on it.
Yeah, I think he's got to go. I'll tell you, I'm going to throw one out here. This is a dark horse. Don't be a bit surprised if Mike McCarthy gets fired from Green Bay.
Sure.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised at all by that, because this team is just
they're underachieving. I mean,
they really are.
With a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you shouldn't have this kind of problem.
No. And I know he won a Super Bowl and all that, but other than that season, things just they haven't seemed to click quite right since that Super Bowl season. But I'd fire him, so. But
Coughlin out in New York?
Wow.
I think he deserves it.
Do you?
I mean, you look at how those 9 losses, you look at even just the first 2 weeks of the season. If they win those Cowboy game and the Falcons game,
yeah,
and they're 8-7, and they're tied with the Redskins going into week 8.
Well, they had 5 games that they were leading with less than 2 minutes to go. Yep. Yeah, you win any one of those, and you're back in it.
Even a couple weeks ago when they make that comeback against the Panthers and they tie it.
Yeah,
they win that game.
Yep.
That's the. I mean, as well as we praise the Redskins for playing as well as being as consistent as they were. This was the Giants' division to win.
Oh my God!
Down.
It
was put in front of them so many times, and
they blew it every single time. I mean, we spent was this our 16th show for the NFL this year?
Yeah.
8 of those shows we've talked about the Giants had it handed to them and gave it away. At least half the time we've said that. Yeah. So maybe you're right. How long has he been there now?
A long time, man.
Because John Madden always said that after 10 years, the coach should move on no matter what, because you just get burnt out.
They put up a graphic during last night's game where I think he and Eli have the most quarterback coach games played in Giants history.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
So he's been there a long time.
I guess maybe he does deserve it, but in any case, he's been there too long.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to make a change just to make a change. I mean,
other coach. Do you think Sean Payton's out in New Orleans?
I don't think they'll fire him, but I think he'll end up somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, I could see a deal being swung where he ends up in Dallas, because that's kind of where the rumor that he's always wanted to be in Dallas. So.
Yeah. There's plenty of teams that could fire their coach, and maybe there probably will be one that we're surprised by.
And Miami's going to probably look for someone new.
Yeah, because even when they fired him, the second coach wasn't any better.
Yeah.
But that's next week. One more week of NFL football. Then we get the playoffs. Finally, some actual good football that we'll see on a week-to-week basis. On to college football season, and we jump into the middle of Capital One Bowl Fortnight. Bowl semester. I don't know. It's too long. We got a lot of other bowl games this week, but the main thing here is the New Year's Six games and the playoff games. Let's do the New Year's Six games and finish off with the playoff games.
Okay.
So Thursday, December 31st, we have the Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Number 18, Houston, taking on number 9, Florida State in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. I'd love to see Houston win this game. I really like the way they play. Florida State has been up and down. They've been consistent, kind of. But I kind of like Houston in this game as my upset pick.
I'm going to go right there with you on that one. I think that the Houston Cougars want to be there, and the Seminoles are like, hey, this is the Peach Bowl. Come on, it's a good bowl, but it's a much bigger deal to Houston than it is to Florida State. I'm with you. I think the Cougars win this one.
We'll go quickly to New Year's Day with the Battle Frog Fiesta Bowl. Of all the New Year's Six of the big bowl games, I think this is actually going to be the best bowl game of them all.
It's the best game outside of the playoff.
Number 8, Notre Dame. Number 7, Ohio State. Yeah, I'm excited to watch this game. I think I'm going to go with Notre Dame knocking off the Buckeyes in this one.
Yeah. Boy, you know what?
I know you got your Buckeye loyalties.
I do, but I tell you something. The way
Ezekiel Elliott's final college game.
Yeah, they came back strong against Michigan after that whole debacle with Michigan State, but it's going to be a really good game. I know that, and I don't think you could go wrong picking either one of these teams. So I understand the Notre Dame pick, but I got to stick with my Buckeyes. But I'm not going to be a bit surprised if Notre Dame wins this one. So I'm taking the Bucks, but just by a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one.
It's really going to be a good one, yeah.
Right up after that, the Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual. What's going to be a physical football game.
Yep.
If you like old school football, turn on that Rose Bowl. Always the best setting in college football. The Rose Bowl game, New Year's Day, the sun's going over the San Gabriel Mountains. It's a gorgeous setting for a football game. Someday the College Football Playoff Committee is going to figure out that the championship game needs to be played at the Rose Bowl every year. Yeah. Number 6, Stanford. Number 5, Iowa. It's going to be a physical game, but Stanford just top to bottom more talented than Iowa, I think. Yeah, I think so too. I'd like to see the Hawkeyes win this one because that would really be a nice validation for their season, but I think Stanford's going to have a pretty easy time with them. And the Sugar Bowl, which this is the Sugar Bowl. Number 16, Oklahoma State. Number 12, Ole Miss in New Orleans. I'm taking the Cowboys in that one. Yeah, I think so too. Ole Miss is a pretty good defense, but I'm not sold on that offense. Ole Miss is a 7-point favorite, but I like Oklahoma State. I do too, yep. But to the main events on New Year's Eve, because, just rescheduled stuff. Like the Rose Bowl, I think, is the only game that has to be played on New Year's Day every year. Why couldn't we move the Fiesta Bowl to New Year's Eve and the Sugar Bowl to New Year's Eve? Why couldn't we play the playoff games on Saturday? Yeah. Why? Because it's the New Year's Six. It's their thing. Okay, well, we've had... I don't understand why they can't be the first and the second either. I don't know why it has to be New Year's Eve. Well, it's supposed to be a big thing to play after the first of the year. I don't think anybody would have complained if they'd moved the playoff games to the 2nd of January. No. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. No. Especially when we used to have championship games that were played what seemed like in the middle of January, back in the BCS days. And, you look at these, so Alabama, Michigan State starting at 8 o'clock Eastern on New Year's Eve. That's ruined. If you had plans to go out that night and you're a Crimson Tide fan, you're just staying home. Yeah, right? Yeah. Or believe me, invite everyone over to your house and watch the game or something. If Ohio State, Alabama had been on New Year's Eve last year, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying home and watching that. Right? Yeah. But the first game at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, the Orange Bowl. Your semifinal between number 4 Oklahoma and number 1 Clemson. Last year, Clemson played Oklahoma in the Russell Athletic Bowl. Clemson won 40-6 in that game. Deshaun Watson, Heisman Trophy finalist, had been playing great all season. Oklahoma, with a late rush, took advantage of the Big 12 schedule it had to work its way into the playoff here. Oklahoma is, or Clemson is a 3.5-point favorites in this one. Or Oklahoma is actually the 3.5-point favorite in this one.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oklahoma's a 3.5-point favorite against Clemson in the Orange Bowl.
Okay, I'm a little more respectful of Oklahoma than I have been in the past month or so. Mm-hmm. But I still think that A, this is a makeup call, and B, I don't think they're as good as Clemson. I'm not entirely sold on them. I think Clemson wins this game pretty handily and pretty easily myself.
I do too. I understand that there's a lot more Oklahoma fans across the country, and that maybe drives the line one way or the other.
Yeah.
But Clemson's the better football team. They just simply are.
Yeah.
The only undefeated team in college football. They had some great wins on their schedule, and Oklahoma didn't do anything for me. Like I saw what they did, and yeah, sure, they're Oklahoma, they're a name brand, and they're kind of impressive down the stretch, but.
Again, though, against the Big 12, we don't have anything to base Oklahoma on except their Big 12 schedule, and that's just not enough for me.
Right. They beat Tennessee early on, but they still lost to Texas.
Yeah, I mean, in Tennessee,
they still lost to Texas.
What did Tennessee? Was there like 8-5 or 8-4 this year? Maybe Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee wasn't bad, but
yeah, but come on, that's not a signature win, especially not for a team like Oklahoma. So no, I think Clemson takes this one easy.
Right. And the second semifinal, number 3 Michigan State, number 2 Alabama in the Cotton Bowl in Cowboy Stadium. Alabama's a 10-point favorite over Michigan State, and I think that's probably right. And, I like Michigan State to a point. Alabama's better, and Nick Saban's not going to let another Big Ten team come into a playoff game and knock them off like Oklahoma or like Ohio State did last year. I got to think that Alabama and the Crimson Tide are going to be focused. Derrick Henry has a big day and leads the Alabama Crimson Tide to a victory in the semifinal.
Well, now, see, I'm going to sound like a complete homer when I say this, but the difference between this game and the game between Ohio State and Alabama last year, Ohio State was the better team in the game against Alabama last year. It's just simple as that. Mm-hmm. And you can go back and watch it, and the score, it was never as close as the score indicated. Michigan State's not better than Alabama. I think they can beat Alabama, but Alabama this year is clearly more talented. So Michigan State can win this game, but they've got to do it in a way where they keep Alabama off the field. Long, time-consuming drives. They have to put up touchdowns. They can win, but short of that, Alabama, I think they cover that 10. I think Michigan State could win, but I'm going to go with Alabama. I think they win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, I think I might take Michigan State for the points, but I think I would take Alabama for the win. Yeah. I think it'll stay close just because Alabama's not going to throw the ball up. They're going to run it. They're going to control the clock, and it might stay close with Derrick Henry. But I like Alabama. So we have chalk basically in the semifinal games 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and pick the championship game from that. We have Alabama Clemson on the road. Where are they playing this one? It's in where's the championship game this year?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it?
It's in Glendale at the University of Phoenix Stadium.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Clemson because I think they're more balanced than Alabama overall. They can run, they can pass, they can play defense, and I think Alabama's lack of a true air game with its quarterback will hurt them at the most inopportune time. And I like Clemson as their national champion.
You know what? I'm going to go back to the Michigan State-Alabama game for a second. If Michigan State can find a way to shut down Derrick Henry and make them have to throw the ball, then I think Michigan State wins. But I don't know that their defense is really good. But, they shut down Ezekiel Elliott, but he's a great back, but he's not Derrick Henry. So, but yeah, with Alabama, Clemson, I'm with you. I'm going to take Clemson also because I think they're just more balanced and Clemson can just score points, and I don't think that Alabama can do that. I think if Clemson's game is to get in a shootout in that championship game, and they'll win that. I don't think Alabama can hang with them in the scoring department.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the other bowl games out there, is there any that really stick out to you? I like Michigan, Florida in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah,
is interesting for a couple different reasons, but I think Michigan's defense against Florida's lack of offense will be
right.
Be kind of a travesty.
The rest of them, though, not maybe Oregon, TCU.
Oregon, TCU. I was going to say the Alamo Bowl. probably going to have a lot of points scored in that one. And, Nike's going to just, drool all over that game.
Right. But for the most part, Northwestern Tennessee might be interesting.
Yeah.
But for the most part, no, I think we've covered them. They're all – you get to this point, all the bowl games are going to be halfway decent at least. So, you can't go wrong with football from this point forward, really.
And Arizona State in its home game in the Cactus Bowl at Chase Field on January 2nd. Yeah.
You're not going to like this, but I like the Mountaineers in this one.
They're a 1-point favorite.
Yeah.
But it's a home game for the Sun Devils. Yeah. I know they probably don't give a damn.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have some pride in themselves. But that's going to lead us into the new year, and that's going to lead us into a national championship game, second year of the playoff. I'm excited for the last bit of bowl games here.
Yep.
Now that we're through all these no-name bowl games and blowouts and things like that.
I'm just going to say it again. Thank God that we've got a playoff and not that BCS stuff anymore.
Yeah. Any last things to say before we head on our way, Greg?
Go Chiefs.
Do we want to talk about that HGH report at all?
No, let's save that for basically a sports show.
Okay. Last thing I got to say is, the Colts have a 5% chance. You know what? Colts lose on purpose.
Wait,
I don't want you to make the playoffs. I don't want to deal with your nonsense. Just lose.
Well, let's back up for a second. It's pretty clear right now that neither one of our teams are going to win the Super Bowl. So who are we bandwagoning on from this point forward?
Oh, I'm a Cardinals. My family has season tickets to the Cardinals.
Okay,
they're kind of my second team. I keep tabs on them all the time. I'm definitely on the #Bird Gang bandwagon.
Okay, for me, I'm going to one from each conference. In the AFC, I'm all the way with the Chiefs. In the NFC, I'm with you. I'm going to go with, if the Packers don't win, and they're not going to. Once that's done, then I'm with you on the Cardinals bandwagon.
Then in the AFC, I still got to go with the Broncos just because Peyton.
Brock Osweiler, the best ASC quarterback since Jim Druckenmiller.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, Jim Druckenmiller was from Virginia Tech. What am I talking about?
Jim Plummer. Or
Jake Plummer. Jake Plummer, right.
Yeah, Jake the Snake. But yeah, Arizona State connection and Peyton Manning, I got to go with the Broncos in the AFC, even though I don't think they can. I don't know. They're kind of a weird team.
Chiefs cards here if the Packers don't get there, so,
I think that's going to be it. Follow us on all of our platforms, listen to our other podcasts, and let me be the last to wish. Excuse me. Let me be the last to wish you a Merry Christmas. The first to wish you a Happy New Year.
And I'd just like to point out that the next, basically, a football show will be coming from the warm, fun, and sun of the Florida coast.
Hey.
All right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, until then, enjoy the last week of the NFL, enjoy the bowl games, enjoy the football, and enjoy the move to Florida, Greg.
It was fiercely fought, but frightfully blurred. Let's take that over again. An original Raider, Wayne Harkins.
I got that wrong that time.
Wayne Harkins. Shoot now. Come on, John.